I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this evening. Thank you for the folks that are gathered in this room this evening. We pray for your guidance in this meeting, and we pray for your hedge of protection from anything that would try to divide this community. And we pray for your hedge of protection also upon all the citizens in this community. With the weather coming in this week, and for those who may be struggling, we just pray for your guidance upon them, and reach out to us to be the hands and feet of you for them. Tug on our hearts to help us move to make a difference for everybody in this community. And most importantly, just help everyone in this community know how much they are loved. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right, Jan, if you would, roll call.
Present. Here.
Jason.
Here.
Here.
Okay, we don't have our presenters. Yeah, we're missing.
Hi.
Thank you for being here. We're missing our presenters. So we will, but we still have the consent agenda. So do we have any questions or comments on the consent agenda?
I do.
Oh, if you would.
No, I'm sorry. Okay, I've never been to one of these before.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine.
I'm just going to ask you what it was.
Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate it. If you would please state your name and address.
Will Duff, 1492 North 500 East, Union City.
Awesome. Thank you, Will. Yeah, consent agenda is basically it's all the claims for all the expenditures for the different city departments. And, you know, like when a truck gets fixed, you name it. Anything that gets turned in has to be approved. Good question. Any questions? If not, I would entertain a motion for approval.
I'll move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
We have a first, we have a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Okay, I'm gonna try to buy some time here. We do not have our presenters here yet, and they give me an affirmation that they were gonna be here, so I'm gonna switch it up here real quick. And this is not gonna look the most professional because I've gotta control the slides from here, so I apologize. But we'll go ahead and go into what I was gonna present. As I told you in the last meeting, that I would share an update regarding 2023, the different things we're in the midst of right now, and what we have forthcoming. And I'm looking for, let's see, find my PowerPoint presentation. I apologize, it got thrown a little bit out of kink here. That's not it. Let's do a search here. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna pull this up. Just bear with me while it takes a moment to, well, come on now. There we go. It was just slow. All right, there we go.
Hey.
Yeah. Nobody's gonna hire me for tech skills unless they've absolutely reached the very bottom. So 2023, what we're looking at here are the main things that are on our plate as we live and breathe right here on January 23rd. Thank you. So obviously things are pretty fluid in life, so things can change. But right now, Vision Corner. Anybody who saw Vision Corner for a spell where it didn't look like anything was going on, there was good reason for that. When we went through the READY process, which is the Governor Holcomb's program for the $400,000 that we've received, we had to go through an official bid process, which is 90 days. Now, we had been bidding it out and soliciting bids, but we had to go through the official, quote unquote, process to meet their standards. So we basically had to do it all over again, painfully, which was 100 days is what it encompassed. And that was painful. So HVAC couldn't start for over 3 months. Now that's going on. So now you're seeing more activity there, and you will see rampant activity over the next 2, 3, 4 months until everything's finished. And we've got activity in there, you know, because the walls are done, the floors are done, and so forth. But the update on Ready, what that means is we got a press release that I'll share with you guys. I'll send out. It's a press release from the Ready program that they wanted to officially recognize we're the first ones in the region to be funded. So, and we're the first ones accessing funds. So we're ahead of the game. We're ahead of the curve, and they want to publicize that because it's a big deal, obviously. Funding continues, though. We've been recently blessed to receive funding from Citizen State in the form of $15,000, $5,000 per year toward this project for the next 3 years. We are currently submitting to the Ball Foundation, and through my meeting and presentation with the Ball Foundation, they have referred me on to AEP, and they've already reached out to AEP on my behalf, which was pretty awesome. We're on the city's behalf, I should say. So funding is we're in a firm push for that still because, again, everything went up. You know, we had $450,000 approximately allocated toward HVAC, and $900,000 was the actual tally. Yeah, and that's painful. That's very painful. And when I say 450, it's not that we're that bad of estimators. That was done pre-inflation, pre-pandemic, so or right at the beginning of the pandemic before everything hit the roof. So programming. This is the meat and potatoes of what's on the inside. People say, "What is Vision Corner?" Vision Corner still is geared toward education. It's geared toward every soul in this community and surrounding community, and it's geared toward making us stronger. That's the heart of the project. Our first English learners class is already underway. That's Ivy Tech that's helping spearhead that. That's helping enlarge the workforce for Workhorse, for Cardinal, for Frank Miller. It's to help the many individuals in the community where English may not be their primary language or first language, and it may not even be a language they're very comfortable with at all. But not only does it help them basically assimilate to our society and our culture, but also is going to help them be gainfully employed. It's going to help them climb the ladder too. And so that's a huge one. Esports program, that's already commenced. We had our first win the other day. Do I understand that correctly?
And
sorry, I didn't.
Technically, this past Wednesday, we did Super Smash Bros. They sort of lost by forfeit because their internet was bad. But today...
Okay, well, it was a win's a win.
Well, I'll keep going with it. So, also this past Thursday, they competed in Rocket League. I think they won that. They actually competed in that. And then today, they also had another Valorant match, and we won that as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Good job.
So.
Well, that's awesome. Well, and for anybody out there wondering what is esports, here's my ignorance on display for everyone. I thought it was just kids playing video games. I honestly thought that's what it was. It is far more detailed than that. There's collaboration amongst the kids where they actually strategize going into a match against another team. There's actually software or programming applications, I believe, according to Ball State, because Ball State actually started this, and they're one of the big ones on the collegiate level, and they wanted a high school program in central Indiana. And so Union City is actually one of the first ones to the plate in that regard. And the actual lab will be, right now they're in a makeshift setup at the school, but the actual lab will be one of the classrooms up the second floor at Vision Corner. And then the other classrooms up there, besides obviously K.I.S.S and Apache on the bottom floor of Vision Corner, but the upstairs classrooms will be in conjunction with Ivy Tech, and there's probably going to be some curriculum going on with Ball State too before it's all said and done. But it's all geared around toward what the area industry needs in terms of skill sets that they need improvement upon. Either a current workforce that needs stronger skill sets, and some of these are just soft skills. Because if we're really building our community to be as strong as it can be, we need to be armed with the ability to climb the ladder, so to speak. Not everybody just wants to be, on the bottom floor the whole time. Some do, and that's awesome. But some people want to work their way up, and they want higher level positions within the company. That takes a certain amount of soft skills, so to speak, and that's just not computer skills and so forth, but it's also just collaboration with teammates, workforce dynamics, understanding problems and getting others on board and how to identify the problem, address it, and solve it collectively. It can be on how to build morale. It can be how to enhance teamwork. There's a myriad of things that go into being a truly effective employee for a company and helping them see you as an irreplaceable resource and someone that they need to be a part of their future. That's what we want every person in this community to be. So, so that's really the essence. Why I said jobs are currently available. Sometimes I'll hear, we need jobs. Well, I don't disagree with that, but we have jobs. We have jobs right now as I sit that are open and are ready to be filled. The harsh reality is we don't have personnel to fill it. Okay? And that could be hard to take as a citizen. Oh, you're saying I'm not good enough. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying within you are skill sets that have not been refined or discovered, and that's the point of this. Everybody in this community is good enough to do pretty much anything they want, which will blow their minds, once they start getting into it. But the fact is, we're all, it's how a diamond is refined, how a diamond is made. It takes a lot of pressure, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort before we all become what we're capable of becoming. And I don't think we ever truly become what we're capable of becoming, but we can certainly make efforts to get there. And so that's what this is all about. So that's Vision Corner. So that's going. I've got Q1 and Q2. You notice there. That's the first 6 months. That's where this project is aimed to encompass, and then be off and running, where we're done and construction's pulled out. Industrial road development infrastructure. We have an $8 million proposal project on the table that we're trying to get funding through the state. Out there at our industrial park, industrial road that would go from basically 32 over to 700 and would provide an outlet, because right now the main road into the industrial park is owned by Workhorse. That's their road. And so if we want continued infiltration of suppliers, more suppliers coming in the area, they need their own road. They need to have a road to be able to access. And so this industrial road is critical for that access. Along with that is the South Main Water Loop. Steve, if you don't mind, I need to send a message to our presenter. So if you don't mind, share with them the information you recently uncovered regarding our water pressure out there.
So the South Main Water Loop project is designed to run from the South Howard Street Water Department location and tied into the 10-inch water line that runs down 32. Technically, that's a dead-end line, and it needs to be looped back into our system so that the water's constantly circulating. For as long as that line has been in existence, and for as long as eco-vehicle systems have been in existence, they have had issues. ECO has had issues actually passing their annual sprinkler system testing, and it's basically because of volume and pressure loss at the point of contact. So the South Main Water Loop, tying that in, feeding more water into the system, is going to enable those systems to pass the test effectively and provide more pressure and more volume of water out there to the industrial park. It's been a project that's been in the pipeline. We've bid it a couple of different times and fell short on some funding opportunities, but we have included it into the industrial park roadway project because it's so crucial to get all of those services out there and get them right when we're doing this roadway. The water infrastructure improvements is increasing volume by adding wells to our system and increasing filter capacity, which means effectively we can make more water. We do the housing development process that we just finished up. We went through the evaluation process with IDEM. We have plenty of water, but in order for we as a city to continue to grow, we need to be forward thinking and know and understand that there theoretically is a point in time we could be running low on water, and we don't want to get to that point. So with the increased usage of the ethanol plant and probable development as Workhorse evolves, we just felt that it was in our best interest to go ahead and include these updates into this project as well. And effectively, every one of those things are being discussed in a collaborative approach with the USDA and the IEDC and other federal partners. So,
yeah, the idea is IEDC would fund, or rural development, rural development with the USDA would fund 75%, and then we would pursue IEDC for the remaining. So, because we know we're strapped, we can only go so far. So, those are hugely critical projects for the industrial park, and people talk about work and expansion and jobs and so forth. This is a key component of that. Housing expansion, obviously. People, there's been some concerned voice. Well, why are they building houses now? Number one, clarifier: the city is not building houses. The city does not build houses. The city is responsible for creating infrastructure, as you saw in the previous slide, to allow development to flourish or to take place. So we are not building houses. But in terms of the infrastructure that we put in, that's critical for housing. And people might say, well, why are houses being built now? Well, there's still a housing shortage. I know the economy is we don't know where it's going exactly. And there's been glimpses of stability and there's been glimpses of instability. Welcome to the last 200 years. But the fact remains, we still don't have enough houses. So if you wait till things get great, then we're still on the outside looking in because we still don't have any houses. And we'll miss that window. So, and if we start doing something when things are great again, before we're done, things will not be great again. And then people complain, why you just got to do it. We're short. That's all there is to it. Talking to Paul Faddis a while back, he said, we could probably fill 20 brand new homes right now. He goes, I mean right now. Literally. Not just over the next couple of weeks. So that's why this is so critical. Phase 1, 24, I think it is. Is it 24, 20? Yeah, 24 new homes going up in phase 1. They will start here in March. And we need those. We need those because we need people who work here to live here. We need more kids in our school. We need more folks that live here so they can shop here more often and buy their gas here more frequently. And community development. We need more folks to take part in our amenities at the park or downtown. We need more folks who join the Lions Club, will join Rotary, will help coach Little League, help coach soccer. These people aren't falling off of trees. Brandon's shaking his head, yes. Anybody who's coached knows it's like, oh my gosh, we need people, we need volunteers. The more people you bring in the mix, the better opportunity you have to have those people to step up and play a role. So, again, home construction will commence this March. Funding avenue is in process for completion of phase 2, phase 3. What Steve alluded to earlier, there's actually a comprehensive package that's being put together regarding not just the infrastructure out in the industrial park, but also the infrastructure for our housing. So good stuff. So that's an update on that. I say Q1 to Q4 because those homes, it's going to take all year to get all 24 homes built. And obviously, he's going to build 5 at a time. And I don't know how long 5, did he say how long it takes to build 5?
His goal, once he's up and things are flowing, is 20 homes a year.
20 homes. So we'll have 4 to come yet to finish out phase 1 next year. Downtown progress. We have a site plan being developed by Moten Associates for the corner of Oak and Columbia. That corner, as you know, that's the one clean corner already where the building was brought down, catty-cornered from the corner cupboard and across from the Motley shop. That's all clean. However, we need the site plan because part of the land that needs access for that development, for that business, involves ground that's currently occupied by Elks, the Elks Club. So we need to make sure that gets ironed out so there's street access from there because that business will have, that restaurant on the corner will have a drive-through. And so that's critical for that project. But we have also, we will be completing the demolition completely for 325 to 339. And we have a proposed townhouse development that's on the table, and that we're trying to get also as part of the comprehensive package that we're submitting to the state. And then 117 North Columbia, which is right down here on the corner, right where the old city building used to be. We're still trying to identify a rail car for a placemaking project at that corner as a gateway to Artisan Crossing. So 223 North Columbia, that is also a site renovation for future development, as you see there. We're seeking actually a grant from Indiana Landmarks for the study completion. That's down here on the other side of the alley for anybody wondering, what used to be Hub City Finance, the old bank.
We've got that grant.
So we've got the grant. We've already got the grant for the study. So once the study's complete, that study was submitted to Rural Development to achieve another grant. And that's a $99,000 grant that we're applying for that site. And that will work on windows, all facade improvements for that building. So, so that's a little bit of a downtown glimpse, if you will. And again, that's Q1 through Q4 because the site development for 223, that business wouldn't be ready for business until probably September. So that's the headline on that, or the update on that. And then the state line collaboration, which Eric can speak to certainly, agreements have been achieved from the state level on both sides for a joint approach to fire, police, and EMS. So we do have collaborative agreements in place, which is landmark. We've been at this for over 150 years. Actually, Shelley told me we're getting ready to celebrate 175th year. Hey, there we go. 175th year next year for Union City. So it's going to be a big event, and we finally now are able to come together in terms of pooling our resources and working more efficiently, and basically saving dollars. And so it's been brought up to me that we don't need 7 or 8 fire trucks in this community. We could use 3 or 4 good ones. And that's another nice thing is if we work together, we can afford to get better equipment and get more comprehensive equipment that we need so we can be truly effective and serve, because we got to serve a lumberyard. We don't just serve people with our EMS, we serve factories. If there's a giant fire, God forbid, if there's a giant fire at a lumberyard or at the workhorse plant, we got to be first ones on the spot. And they've got to have confidence that we can get the job done. The people are great that work for us. We've got to make sure we have the right equipment. And we got to make sure that we don't overspend or overkill on equipment. So that's the beauty of coming together. So obviously, we're also exploring and developing an avenue to reduce the number of municipal sites and structures needed, thus reducing cost. If it sounds like I'm talking in code there, it's because I am. I can't share any more on that until later, but believe you me, there won't be one single dollar committed to anything until until you guys have full clarity on what the plan is, what the proposal is. But we're working fervently to get to that point, so that we again can be smarter. If we can eliminate structures, and when I say eliminate structures, I don't mean tear them down. If we eliminate structures we need, so we can reduce the amount of roofs that we live under as a city, thus reducing the amount of utilities that we pay, and the amount of upkeep that we have, and the amount of maintenance that we're in charge of, that's a good thing. And so that's our goal. Park enhancements. That's again, Q1 through Q4. Artisan Crossing, the ribbon cutting, and we're going to be sending out special invitations here shortly, especially to all of our donors, and then throughout the community, to ensure everybody knows that on April 28th, which is a Friday, late Friday afternoon, will be the ribbon cutting for the rail tower, where people will be able to go in there and actually use restroom facilities during concert series and during other events in the Artisan Crossing. And good news is, this should make your year. The center lines have already been trenched, so there's obnoxious poles down the middle of Artisan Crossing are coming out finally.
Beautiful.
Yes, beautiful is right. They tried to to sock us with a $28,000 price tag to have us do that, and I said absolutely not. And thank goodness we held out because it's paying off because they're doing that as a benefit to the community. So it's pretty awesome. Trail renovation at Harder Park, we're going to be pursuing a route through the DNR. We've done that before, and it came up empty because they trimmed down the number of applications they were accepting. This time we think we're hopefully taking advantage of an opportunity of an open window to get the trail renovated, get it recovered and widened. And then shelter rehabilitation completion, if for anybody wondering what that is, that's what some people call the spider shelter house. It's a shelter house that's up on the hill and it's missing a roof. And it's the highest point of elevation in the park, and we want to get that completed and get it refabbed. So, and then future trail improvements downtown, we do have a special presentation coming to you guys that you definitely won't want to miss. Well, you guys are kind of a captive audience anyway, but anybody else watching won't want to miss. It's a really cool presentation that the Ball State Landscape Architecture Group did at the end of last year. Steve and I paid a visit to them in December one evening, and they did the full-blown presentation. It was impressive. And it's basically through the corridor, through here, all the way into the Ohio side, really developing this trail, and not just beautifying the main corridor through the heart of the city on both sides, but also making it highly functional and making it productive for the community. So more on that to come. We're hoping that takes place in the second or fourth Monday in February is when they would present. So I finally get to shut up. Does anybody have any questions? Anything that you'd like more detail on? And again, it's just a glimpse. That's what it said. It's a glimpse. But we've got a lot on our plate. We're going to run hard, but we're going to get there. So. Yes, Steve.
There are a couple of lingering questions out there.
Absolutely.
About the housing development. I'll just give you both of them and you can then attack.
Absolutely.
The question is why that developer? There are local, more close by developers.
Yep.
And why, when they look up these land things on the Randolph County GIS, is the sale price zero to that person?
Gotcha. Yeah, no, great question. We sought fervently, we actually had not negotiations, we didn't get far. We had talks with 5 different developers. We couldn't get anybody to bite. We could not get anybody to bite. And this is over the span of a couple years. And this gentleman, and I was frustrated, and we were sitting back here, Steve and I and J.D. Prescott and Jeff Rotz were sitting back here having a meeting, and it was early, I don't remember what it was, late 2020, early 2021, late 2020 maybe?
It wasn't late, it was probably April or May.
Of 2020? Okay. And I just we were voicing our, things on our minds, on our hearts, and I was voicing frustrations, and I said, we know we need to build. I get told all the time, we don't have enough houses, we don't have anywhere to live. I get complaints about people not having places to live. There's always 2 sides of a ledger. There's people complaining, why are you building houses? Then there's other people saying, why aren't you building houses? But I hear it from the factories, and which is concerning, and I hear it from the schools, no place for people to live. So I told Jeff that. I told Jeff Rods, I said, we can't find somebody to build. We've had talks with folks around the area and Indy, and we were more than happy to have anybody local build, but nobody was willing to step up. And so he said, I've got someone you need to talk to. And it was a gentleman who moved here from North Carolina. He was a builder, and he had extensive build history and had done a lot of great work down in the Carolinas. Then he moved to Dayton and was already starting up and was actually trying to get something going in Richmond. And they got caught up in some kind of, I don't know what the deal was with the land where they couldn't work it out with the ground, but it never materialized. So he was available. And we showed him what we had, and he said, well, okay, I'm interested. But then we had to have the talk about the infrastructure, because you guys know that path well, we had nothing out there. But as that negotiation commenced, we got to the point where he's like, okay, well, to build the kind of homes you want, and these aren't like just stick homes that will blow over in the first strong wind that comes through Union City. These are good, solid homes. You guys have seen pictures of them numerous times. They're the kind of homes that's necessary to actually draw families in that will want to live here and raise their kids here. So That's what we wanted. We didn't want what looked like a cookie cutter approach, you know, and we certainly didn't want cheap, because that's not going to do, that does no justice to the homeowners surrounding it, to put in some cheap development. But at the same time, we couldn't go Taj Mahal either. We couldn't go ritzy at all, because you know, it's not, the payback's not going to be there. So in order to make this happen, we had to basically agree, if he was to shoulder the burden of building, and basically the millions of dollars that we spent to put these homes up, not on our dime, it's on his dime. If he's willing to shoulder the 14, was it 14 or 12, or what was it, million that he got, the line
It's
of
over
credit?
$14 million.
Over $14 million line of credit to build, then we had to be able to turn all the land over for $1 for him to build. And I know somebody's gonna be like, oh my gosh, you turned that land over for $1. Well, let me tell you what, right now, what that land was doing, it was sitting dormant. It was being farmed, great, but no one was living there. Our number one problem right now, again, I'll say this, and I know people argue this, but it's the truth, and we can bear this out in numbers. Our number one problem right now is we don't have enough homes for people to live in. And when I say homes, I mean quality homes. I mean people that, when people want to move to a community, they don't picture going into a big, majority of people don't picture going into a big fixer-upper. They want a home they can move into tomorrow. And I'm talking about the majority, not everybody, and everybody falls in that bucket, but when we're trying to draw families in here, they need a home they can move into immediately. We don't have that. And a lot of people like new homes too. We don't have that either. And so if we're gonna fix that problem, we gotta do something. It may be painful, I'm sorry. And somebody's out there, why don't they do this? Why didn't you come and tell us? If you've got the answer, if you got the solution, where have you been for 30 years? Well, okay, fine. But if you got the answer, you come here. Don't bicker about it behind closed doors or on Facebook, okay? Because we know what needs to be done and we're gonna do it. And so that's where we're at. And again, because we couldn't get anybody to bite off on building the homes, because the burden, the financial burden is so high on the builder, because they're the ones assuming the risk. And so this was the one way, because trust me, and we had this conversation with different builders. One was at Indianapolis, I can't remember the name of them, but you remember the one out of Indy, that he was interested in coming here. He was referred to us by some of the engineers that worked with the city. And he goes, with the margin of difference, the margin of profit that we've been looking at, you know, if we got to buy those lots, there's just no way. Because he goes, I could build tomorrow outside of Fishers and outside of he was naming all these burgs they could build. He goes, I'm making money hands over fist. He goes, I'm just not going to make anything, and couldn't get him to buy it.
Also, part of the regional economic development SEEDS plan, or SEDS plan, however you want to say it, identifies that the only way we're going to generate and building permits prove this. The only way we can generate growth in the housing market is to leverage the cost of infrastructure completely out of the build.
Yep.
It's the only way. And in District 6, which is 8 counties, over the last 12 months, now we're talking 8 counties, there was only like 132 building permits pulled for new house construction. That's way low, way low. When you think that we're going to be pulling 24 in 2023. So, you know, those numbers speak for themselves. There's a lot of doubters, there's a lot of naysayers. You know, we believe we're on the right path.
Yep, and we're not stopping. We're not stopping. Because the one thing that's going to be most critical, if anybody hears anything I say tonight, and I know you're going to forget most of it, that's fine, but if you remember one thing I say tonight, our most valuable resource, and everybody needs to get this in their core, our most valuable resource has been, is, and always will be our people. Always. Houses come and go. Buildings come and go. Businesses come and go. People, we need people. We need Jason Brewers, we need Tito's, we need Tim's, we need Brandon's, we need Bob's, we need Eric's. Was it Will?
Yes, sir.
We need Will's. We need people. We need people in this community. People's where it's at. People are the one that developed how to make carpet. People are the ones that learned how to make a chair. People are the one that invented cars. People are the one that invented lights. People are the one that put these together. It's people. It's not land. It's not how did you get that house built, or what did you do with that ground? It's not that, it's people. How do we get people in this community? That is number one objective. Every day we wake up, that's what I'm concerned about. How do we get more people? How do we get the people that are here? How do we tap into them and the immense abilities they have and passions they have? How do we tap into that? And how do we draw more in? I guarantee you, I will bet my last dollar, not betting my dollar. I will bet my last dollar that everyone in this room has abilities they don't even realize yet. Promise you. Just think what it's like with our kids. Just think what this kid's got in front of him. I mean, seriously. So we should want as much of that as we can get. That's what it's all about. And we get more folks in this community, we get more ideas, we get more people filling jobs, we get more people buying products, we get to be stronger. So that's the road we're going to travel. So, great question. I'm sorry, what was your second question?
You answered it. You answered
Okay,
it.
sorry.
Why the land was sold at zero.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha.
Then you answered it.
You're probably like, God, I don't want to ask another question. Any other questions? All right. Well, with that being said, I will flip this screen here, and we will turn it over to William and Kirsten, and I will, from beginning, there we go. You guys are our special presenters for tonight, so
Thank you.
turn the floor over. Thank you. Oh, I'll stay here I'll man the slides for you.
There you go. We'll work off of what we have in front of us.
Okay.
And say next.
That's perfect.
Honey?
I'm Kirsten Maines, Vice President of Greystone Tranquility Family Recovery, and future Wayworn, and this is my husband.
I'm William Maines of Grace Tranquility, here on behalf of Wayworn, the future umbrella of nonprofits in Union City, Indiana. And to begin with, it's a blessing to be here today. I'm grateful once again to be standing in front of the leadership of a community that we want to serve. It's really hard to follow the mayor. He's pretty bombastic. Don't be sorry. I loved it. I loved your enthusiasm, and this is going to go hand in hand with what he said. Well, I hope the information that we share here today will put in your mind, what do you need to bring people, and to grow and to expand? Well, you need homes, and you need to improve the infrastructure. You need to have additional services available. They don't all have to be charities. They just have to be additional services that can branch off of the nonprofits. It can be small businesses that are nonprofits that draw people to the area, making it a more friendly, more inviting environment when you have a few more businesses that aren't really out to make a big buck. They're just out there to be a good part of the community. And that's what we want to encourage through these ministries. Introduction, you're gonna have to forgive me, it's been a while since I've done a PowerPoint. And usually I have a clicker. It's been a while. We exist, as Wayworn exists, to maximize the potential of multiple nonprofits under one roof, dramatically lowering the operating costs. We just know that lifting spiritual and secular leadership as a cooperative nonprofits is key to lowering the recidivism rates, addiction, homelessness, mental health concerns, and so much more. Comprised of concerned citizens, we're not going to leave this community to get board members. We won't have it. We want to be serving our brothers and sisters, and we want the same for them. Comprised of concerned citizens, the Wayworn is unique in how we serve family and friends, neighbors, and co-workers in the city we love. Because we might just have gone to school with them. We might just went crawfishing with them. You just never know. Next slide. This number, honey, would you go over that for me? Some of these numbers are just too big to, they get me choked up. So I let my wife do the smart stuff.
So we know that drug use and overdose and the violence and domestic problems that come along with it are a huge problem. But COVID just inflated it and made those numbers much more overwhelming. In addition to the 305,000 people who died directly from COVID, the disruptions and stress resulting from the pandemic contributed to many additional deaths. Preventable drug overdoses increased 34.4% in 2020, from 62,172 in 2019. In 2020, 83,558 people died from preventable drug overdoses, an increase of 649% since 1999. When I seen that number, I cried when I read that statistic. I don't think I've ever seen a percentage that high in my life. That's, on a statistic, that's just unimaginable.
The one that sticks with me the most is the comparisons that people draw. Natural disasters claim less than 1,000 lives in this country every year. Automobile accidents, the same. Cancer, about 500,000 when you include all of the complications that can't be healed because they have cancer. And they're projecting that by the end of 2023, they're going to be close to 140,000 overdoses. And I can't fathom a city not growing and having an infrastructure to deal with these things coming at them. For every 1,000 people that you should have 2 meetings a week. I don't know how many are in this town. If there's 5,000, there should be 10 meetings a week. Just a couple hour-long support groups, if nothing else. If nothing else. But having this umbrella, having all kinds of other services under that same roof, the if nothing else roof, having 9 places that are also fruitful, that may just provide just a little bit. You know, it's not much, but 10 not muches will save a whole lot of souls and have a place ready for the next wave of people coming in and the next generation of folks growing up. I mean, I know people are tired of their kids leaving town. Where I come from, people in my generation, their kids are all gone. There's no place to grow. We grew up in a suburb that's squashed in by other suburbs. You have an opportunity right now to grow and have an infrastructure and keep your kids here and bring others in. Some of these that I'll probably get to because I'm totally out of order are, sorry honey. Again, I get a little emotional, so some of them will come out a little bit faster than others. I'm a disabled veteran myself. If we could go up to this slide.
The next
Yep.
one.
Yep.
And 25, when I started this mission in 2019, 22 veterans a day were taking their own lives. There's about 385 people a day that take their lives in the country. Now, 20, that's about a certain percentage, you do it in your math, but less than 0.1% of the people in this country serve. Which means that I lost the math at over 1,000% more veterans are likely to kill themselves than civilians. Now, those traumas are the same kind of traumas that are suffered by civilians. PTSD, doesn't matter what kind of trauma it is, it's something that you've been subjected to and then you're suffering for, and you keep it in your cabinet until you deal with it or give it to God. Well, these programs and other nonprofits doing their little bit, keeping the lights on, keeping clean underwear in the kids' drawer, giving them a ride to this place or to that place, finding mentors, are all going to make that a little bit easier for the veterans and their families as well. We have veteran-specific programs that are interested in being a part of the nonprofit. Those are the DVOs and the VSOs, which are veteran service officers. They're from the DAE as well as the VFW. They've shown interest in hot officing, which means that all 4 would be participating and 1 would be there each week. one day each week. So we would have DAV, VFW, Foreign Legion, I think it's American Legion, and one of the others were very interested. Was it Goodwill? I think it was Goodwill. There's fourth one is potentially Goodwill.
We want to assure that veterans are getting all of the benefits that they don't always know are there. A lot of veterans miss benefits because they aren't aware of the resource, or they just don't have the patience or the capability to follow through on all of the hoops the VA makes you jump through to get one certain benefit. Some people just don't have it in them to get to the end of the road. So we want to be able to help them.
Suicide rates and veterans are almost all directly correlated to homeless rates. As soon as a disabled veteran has a little bit of shame, they were a man standing on a wall. They had a gun, they protected their family and their friends in the country they loved. They came home, they don't have a job, they're struggling to pay their bills, they have to go ask somebody hat in hand for something. It's humiliating, it's condescending to men who don't have faith. And those angry men are who I was. I was a very angry man. For no reason. I was just a trained, person in the military, just very aggressive young man. Came back, and it was God that brought me back. And having to run around and find the services that we needed all along the way was just so tired. Sometimes we just didn't have the gas to go to point B and C. And it was a tough call. Which one did we need more, A, B, or C? Which service can we go to? I grew up in a very dysfunctional and poor household where I either stayed with my father and it was a tragedy, or I stayed with my mother and it was 3 or 4 different places every year, different schools, different social services systems, group homes. I speak from experience when I say that children are going to need at least 2 programs in this building. That from elementary school age all the way through high school, there are going to need to be 2 programs in this building, minimum. I say 1, music after school, other tutoring after school. Minimum, those 2 programs. If we can get anything else in there, I'll build on. I won't stop building until there's a service in there for every single soul. The reason why we're here is we met a guy in a dog park. I mean, for God's sake, we met a guy in a dog park. We told him what we do, and he said, we need that. You need to talk to him. I talked to him, he invited me to a breakfast. When I left that breakfast, I wept. I couldn't believe it. I was like, God, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to serve a small community where we can humbly, 2 people, my family, make a difference. It's so hard to be a tiny little pebble in a big pond like Cincinnati, Ohio, or Indianapolis, Indiana. But in a community like this, I think that we could impact in leadership and promoting these other nonprofits. That's our main focus, is uplifting these nonprofits, minimizing the amount of money that the government has to spend by facilitating programs that take a lot off the plates of the already existing infrastructure. I think I've probably went off track so many times. Honey, if you want to pick up on the homeless slide right there, because I've rambled on entirely too
And if you
much.
don't mind too, we have Shelley.
Hey, Shelley.
And
I remember.
and Eric, and if you guys don't mind, just at some point, just sharing your observations from your vantage points for what you do and what you've witnessed in this community and surrounding area.
Amen.
In terms of any need or just what the situation is.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We're here to serve you. We're here to lift you up. We have no agenda other than to bring God and bring His Word. And by bringing a lot of folks together under one roof, that always happens. And this isn't a church that we're building, but I guess it is a congregation of good people that are all going to be striving to improve the community.
We all know that homelessness is a problem. Chad covered that well in his speaking. The numbers speak for themselves. We do need homes. We need resources for people who don't know how to find a home, who need a ride to a shelter so that they can then get connected to services that are going to help them get into a home in the future. If somebody's homeless and they live on the street and there's no resources around them, how are they expected to get a home? If they don't know what resources are there, they don't know how to file a paper, they don't have an address to get mail to so that they can get a benefit. That's a problem a lot of times for the people that we help. They don't have anywhere to get the mail that they need to be able to go and do A, B, or C at the city building. 580,000 people were homeless in 2020. And half of them were unsheltered. And that's a lot.
I mean, if you can imagine, 1 in every 600 people not having a home.
And not having a shelter to go to either. Residential programs, residential homes are necessary too. Close shelter to Winchester, which is where we do ministry to, is all the way, I think it's in Muncie.
We're not talking about drop-in shelters. We're talking about people who are going to programs that are on the verge of homelessness but have a job. They can't afford $750 a month or $850 a month because they work at McDonald's and their girlfriend works at Speedway. But they can afford a $200 a week, 1-bedroom efficiency somewhere. And those are the type of things that are necessary for temporary. With the population this size, there should be about 15 to 20 units like that readily available. They don't exist at all. They're completely void. Bringing these type of ministries into the area will also bring attention from other ministries that are a little bit farther off in the distance. Oh, there's a spark. Everybody likes throwing gas on a fire. As soon as we start drawing interest in the communities by the community vesting, local businessmen vesting, the city vesting, us, don't know us from Adam yet, vesting, bringing our own funds into your community, other people will be interested. Other things will start happening. Other growth. People will start looking at this as, oh, what can't I get here? What can't I get in Union City? I can get Christian counseling here. I can get regular counseling here. I can get, my kid can get tutoring after school here. All these different things. My veteran brother who's having issues can go and get help getting his benefits here. There's not going to be anything missing. There's going to be rides to the VA, things like that, and rides to the Children's Hospital if necessary, things like that. Keep appointments. The numbers are just sad. And saying them out loud breaks my heart. That's why I keep avoiding them. They don't get any better. And they haven't been getting any better. There's a couple kinds of leaders in this world, and I think Chad just showed what kind of leader he is. Sometimes you got to put your foot down. Sometimes you got to stomp it and stir up a little dust. Then there's other leaders who just do what their constituents want them to do. Keep it quiet. I voted for you, yada, yada. There's some men who actually don't mind stirring it up a little bit and doing what's good for the community. And ever since I met the man, he's been acting like this kind of crazy. And I respect it and I appreciate it. Like I said, these numbers, I have to leave the numbers to her because it's just too much.
This goes back to the homelessness, that if a family becomes homeless, their children, they don't always, hopefully, choose to have their children homeless with them. So where are they going to go? With a relative or a kin, or into foster care? Hopefully the best situation, they go with a relative or a kin. There's 408,000 children in the United States who are in foster care currently, and 74% of those children end up in prison. 74% of people who are in foster care as youth end up in prison. That is a whole lot of people that we can avoid having be criminals, and then in the future having their entire lives altered, because let's not forget that if you're a felon, you can't do anything with your life. And it's so easy to avoid these things if we help the people in our community. I'm jumping a few slides ahead. It's okay, Chad, you don't have to jump with me. But the estimate that it costs $31,000 to keep somebody detained, here it is in prison, who's awaiting trial. It costs $4,000 to support that person in our community until they go to trial with community supervision. And, you know, to have, whether it be a counselor or a mental health professional, a social worker, or somebody from your church or community center who's coming to check on you. $4,000 compared to $31,000. That's a lot of money that our state could save if we invested a little bit more in our community and the support outside of the government that we can offer to people.
Training grandparents. I love it when my wife brought this up. She said the grandparents that are taking on the next generation's children, it's just happening everywhere you see it. You gotta love grandparents that are willing to take care of their grandchildren. Love them. They don't know anything about computers, cell phones, vape pens.
Not always.
Well, not always.
About the computers and-
yeah,
yeah.
There's a lot of things that they're just not hip to. You know, maybe they go to bed a little earlier. These kids are the ones that are a higher risk of being incarcerated because there's no support for them after school programs for the kids. They need an outlet. A real, you know, honest to God, clean outlet, not hanging out under the overpass or the train tracks or wherever the place is. I know that's where it was when I was a kid. But it's definitely a big need for grandparents and foster care training.
And then the
support.
children who are going to live with their grandparents, they have a lot of trauma probably from their life before they went to live with their grandparents or their relatives. They need healing from that trauma. They need somewhere to go and try and heal and find coping mechanisms so they don't end up in the same place that their parents are. Or they don't end up in prison in the future or end up going to the foster care system because their grandparents don't know how to handle them, because children in today's society are a lot more different than their children were when they were kids. A lot of grandparents can't handle the kids today because they're rageful or they have mental conditions that they can't handle because they don't have the tools themselves. I sat through a 2-hour webinar, the other day about children in kinship care and supporting them through it and how to support the grandparents through it and train them with the coping mechanisms that they need for children in today's society. So that's the stuff we definitely want to offer, is the support for those grandparents. Custody, legal stuff, that's a lot of times grandparents don't get custody of the grandchildren because they don't want to go through the legal process. But then that leads to them not being able to get that child or the children all the things they need in the future. They don't have custody of the child. Maybe they can't take them to a certain doctor's appointment, or they can't take them to get a certain benefit down at the courthouse. Those are issues that we want to fill in the gaps for and minimize.
I was going to say, I didn't know if, and before moving on, I mean, you could draw, you need to finish your thought.
Please.
No.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, Shelley, is there anything that you would like to add from just your observations?
Yeah, well, I can say that I have one of those children.
God bless you.
One of those children that the grandparent couldn't handle.
Amen.
God bless
And
you.
he was, I mean, I was driving down 70 as he was punching me in the back of the head, you know, at 2.5. So I would appreciate more training.
Amen.
And Shelley, I apologize if you don't mind, let everybody know who you are,
Okay.
who you represent.
Yes, I'm Shelley Montfort. I actually live in Winchester. I am a foster parent, adoptive parent, and I work at Centerstone and head up the wraparound program.
Thank you.
So I'm kind of on the kid side of things.
We
you.
met at the
That's-
breakfast that I wept after. That's where I met.
Eric, in terms of from the emergency services standpoint, if you don't mind just sharing what your observations have been with regard to domestic issues or substance challenges.
Yeah, sure. Eric Hyde, I'm Public Safety Director for Union City, which supervises the police, fire, and EMS organization. We kind of hit every piece of this pie. A lot of our customers call 911 for assistance because they don't know what else to do. We have people with psychological issues, and this is a very expensive alternative. When they call an ambulance to go treat them and take them to a hospital, now we got an emergency room bill and an ambulance bill and stuff, and they really just need to talk to somebody. We don't have the resources to share with them. We have families that have drug addiction in it, alcohol abuse, which affects the children, And all we can do is take them to the hospital, and we don't have anything to offer them. So this is a great resource that you're bringing to our community, because if we have brochures or just a simple card that while we're treating a patient or a family, we can give them information. Hey, you know what, if we call this number,
Amen. Yep.
they can help you through this problem, and maybe we don't have repeat customers that are
That's right.
bogging down an important service,
Amen.
and we can spend our time doing community things
Yes.
Yes.
that are more
More edifying.
advantageous.
Yep.
So we touch on every spectrum of this that you're talking about, and I appreciate having you come to our community. And I think it's a valuable resource that'll be very helpful for us.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
Being embraced is not necessary, but it feels good. It really does. God sent us here, but it's good to know we're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, I go. You really got to finish now.
We'll go into what are the goals?
The goals,
Okay,
yeah.
there you go, hon. There we go.
So I think we mostly covered our goals through the whole presentation, but broken down really well. Our main goal, our biggest thing is to keep families together. Keeping families together is extremely important. We both know personally what a broken home feels like.
We cannot let
And-
man set aside what God has put together.
That's our mission statement for our original ministry is amen. We can't let man set aside what God put together, and that's man and wife and children. They're not meant to live separately or be separated. Community inclusion in the healing process. We want the community to be involved. We want to sometimes eliminate the government services that, sometimes government employees don't have the empathy to relate with somebody that maybe somebody in the community
Watch out,
can.
honey, there's a lot of government employees.
Empathizing and sympathizing are completely different, and if you have been through a situation and you can connect with the person on that level, sometimes it makes a big difference.
Unfortunately, at the volume that the states have to handle things, they have protocols they have to follow. They have 3 to 5 days for this, 7 to 14 business days for this. When you could walk in the door and get hugged within a few minutes at a time getting there, that's what this community needs. Maybe Indianapolis with 500,000 people or whatever, but it's good to be able to come in and have a coffee when you're not an addict or you're not a domestic violence victim. There's nothing there's nothing wrong with you. Just come in and grab a cup of coffee. Just come in and be sociable. There's no reason why the people that are coming out of there aren't going to be better citizens and increase the tax base. None. I could see them going back to work at a much faster rate if the recidivism stays down. Did she hit on those recidivism rates back a couple of pages ago? Don't go back. But the recidivism rates currently coming out of penitentiaries and the county jails is 73%. You have a solid program at your back, a long-term program, it's down to 27. Now, full 50% of what? Now, think about the ones that do go back. Do you know which ones go back? Not the violent offenders. They learn their lesson. They're not addicted to their crime. The addicts are. The addicts are the repeat offenders. The addicts, the people who have to steal petty theft, this, that, get caught with a little bit too much in their possession. They go to jail, go back and back and back. The scary guys don't go back. They learn their lesson. They're not addicted to their crime. That's where the big numbers come from, that 74%. So that's what we have to do is get that 74% down. That first 20 takes care of themselves. They learn their
We
lesson.
want to eliminate homelessness completely. We don't want to just reduce it, we want to eliminate it. We don't want anybody in this community or in this county to be homeless. Big thing, but good goal. Big ask.
Big ask, big prayer.
God
We
has
pray it
nothing
every
that's
day.
impossible. Elimination of domestic violence. There's way too much that goes on behind closed doors that we can eliminate. Lower recidivism rates. My husband just covered that. Elimination of addiction. And again, a big ask, but God doesn't say anything is impossible. Raise awareness of resources. Increase veteran support in the community, and that's huge. There's not enough veterans who have enough support because there's not always enough veterans who can meet them at their level, meet them where they are. And my husband amazes me in that area. He's connected with some veterans that I never could have been able to deal with because they were knuckleheads, but he's good at dealing with the knuckleheads.
That's my specialty.
And we went to enhance employability finally.
Absolutely. There's so much evidence that completing any type of program, including secular, enhances employability. And just having programs available is going to enhance the quality, if not just employability, maybe the quality of the employees will start showing up if they're not hungover. You know, you just never can tell.
So we want to, our areas of focus that are going to be our umbrella of nonprofit services, substance abuse awareness, women and children advocates, recovery curriculum, recovery meetings, interventions, mentoring, adult and teen challenge curriculum, long-term mentorship, food pantry and meal services, and clothing, veteran benefits, Christian counseling for families and individuals, and caregiver support and training.
And that's our end game. I love it. Go ahead, huh?
How we get there, we are working in collaboration with and having meetings and communications with multiple different organizations, including Brianna's Hope, Eastern Indiana Works, Centerstone, YMCA, Indiana Family and Social Service Administration, Greystone Ministry, Goodwill, VFW, DAV, VSO, and our local child advocates. Community support. We have a big additional need to train leadership in the community so that there can be other people who can lift up the ones who are on the ground sometimes. There's plenty of people who need help, but there's not enough people to offer the help all the time. Volunteerism for initial cleanup is something that we will need when we have a site. You take over from here.
Verbal and physical, financial support. Oh, the community support. What would we be expecting from the community? I'll pick it up from there. Volunteerism for initial cleanup. As many souls as want to put their hands in it and keep the costs of cleaning up the site down, we'd be grateful. Maybe a little publication, you know, word of mouth on Facebook from the folks sitting in here. Throw something in the newspaper for a line or something. The less we spend on labor for the unskilled stuff, the quicker we can be at full operation. It just makes sense, right? The more free labor we can get. That's right. Free is always in the budget. I like that. Verbal, physical, and financial support. That's all of the above. You know, we want you to, I just said it, spread the word. And any donations direct to Waywarren would be applied, or to Greystone, either one would be applied towards the project. Acknowledgement that we are all connected to someone in some way who is struggling. And a network of community support is critical for all to thrive. We all know somebody, right? Yeah, we all do. I don't need to go too far into that. I don't want to get you thinking about that person. Supportive stakeholders. What we're looking for as far as the public, you know, city, county, state agencies will all be leaning in, preferably. You know, once we're on their radar and they see that, you know, umbrellas of nonprofits are a thing and they should be promoted, then I think that they're going to be coming up. This could be a pilot for other communities. You could be setting examples for your brother and sister communities out there. God is in this. I think you will be. And private families, industries, etc. We're going to look for participation from business owners. And we're going to go right straight up to that lumber mill that you were talking about. We're going to expect, you know, if they have a factory in the community, to support the recovery of the community in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's given directly to the city to give to us earmarked or whatever. And ensure both and long-term goals are met. Really have to stay on top of things. There's very busy men that we deal with. The mayor is a very busy man. All these gentlemen up here, I'm sure, with their regular careers and businesses are busy men. All these folks here look like they're pretty busy, and they're here this evening, and I don't want to waste too much of your time, but it's very hard to follow up with folks. So what we would ask for is just, hey, if you have a question for us, ask us, but then when we give you an answer, let's keep on that conversation going, because I like working things through to resolution. I want that if something comes up and there's a kink somewhere, I don't want anybody walking away from any conversation they have with me bearing anything other than this guy's going to go to work. Nothing. No confusion, no misinterpretation. If you have confusion or misinterpretation, stop me dead in my tracks. I don't ever like that feeling of having slighted somebody that I'm to serve. That doesn't make sense, right? So, all with the burden, yeah, the hard work will be hard to do. I want to talk about the project timeline. I'm a man who under-promises and over-delivers intentionally all the time. I never want to sell somebody on the idea that something's going to be done just so I can get a deal or just so that I can impress somebody or make somebody like me. I would rather tell you that it's going to take 4 or 5 months longer, worst case scenario on every single thing, and show up early and be a smile on your face than the exact opposite. You lose people's confidence when you come up short, and I like to build a safety net. I don't measure twice and cut once. I think I measured twice, cut, measure it again to make sure I didn't mess up. So we're starting up meetings to discuss avenues to help others. That's already been, that was completed. I believe that was the breakfast, I'm not sure. Then there was a joint meeting as well, the startup meeting, and then the initial walkthrough. I walked through the building. We're talking about the First Christian Church on I think it's
Plum.
Oh no, White Corner, Oak and Plum, yeah. Gorgeous building. Got some history. It's got good bones. I have our personal funds and funds from benefactor that we'll be combining. And right as of this moment, we're waiting for a second and third bid because the first bid is kind of scary. So we're waiting for a second and third bid to see if we can get this building into a situation where we can afford it. And in addition to that, we're also, if it has to come down a little bit to make the deal, so be it. And we also have a plan B and plan C for location. But either way, we've done the walkthrough on this building, which is our main target. But there is B and C locations. Site cleanup would be post-acquisition. That's when we'd be asking for the volunteers. Acquisition is there. We could buy the property tomorrow, and we have the funding to buy the property tomorrow. I wouldn't be a good steward without 3 bids, and I wouldn't be a good steward paying entirely too much money for the property just to appease somebody's aggression. So there have to be other viable options. I think there's a little grocery place, a Family Dollar or something out there that's abandoned. We could make 8-10 offices out of that, have 3 or 4, common space meeting areas. It's gonna be here. God sent us here. These services are required in your infrastructure, so there's gonna be here. Where it's gonna be, first choice, First Christian Church, corner north, Plum and Oak. Second choice, right straight across the street, combination of those 2 buildings. Third choice, our man at Coldwell Banker mentioned it, but he hasn't shown it to us yet, so I don't know where it is. Time frame that we're looking at. If we were to purchase the property, close on a designated date, we would probably be looking between the beginning of endish of February, mid-March, for the complete acquisition. Complete the paperwork, get it all done, get it down at the courthouse. And then site cleanup would happen simultaneously with that. Like day after we sign the paperwork, we want to start knocking this out. We want the dumpsters on the side. We want everything being heaped out that needs to come out. Any asbestos or lead mitigated out of there. Because June, we should be pray to have it, like by the end of June, in a build to suit type of situation, where this nonprofit could come in and say, we need this much space, this building, this room right here will be just fine. We want gray pergo, white walls, and gray curtains. And we build it to suit for them. We give them the right amount of outlets. We give them Wi-Fi, and then we set up a lease for them. And that lease would go against the cost of the operating costs. And each person participating in the lease would also be responsible for their share of the utilities. Being a umbrella for the nonprofits, it would be sharing the space completely. Anything left over would be for improvements or go into emergency funding or go into expansion like we mentioned. Anything left over, right? That's gonna be a little while before there's anything left over. But being good stewards, there could be something left over in 18 months or 2 years instead of 3 to 5 or whatever. And that would be amazing, just to start transforming a couple of other locations in town. Maybe not for another counseling facility, but maybe a nice big house that was previously turned into a 2-tenant, changing it back into a 1-tenant, making it a temporary housing for domestic violence, something along those lines, with those additional funds. Every penny is going to be accounted for, and anything that's left over that we get from Jeff, who puts a 10 in the bucket, to the City of Union City, Indiana, that preferably puts $60,000 a year into the bucket, will be accounted for, dime for dime, penny for penny, all going to the service of God and never going into an employee's pocket. The only people who will have to be paid would be vendors, or people who are just beyond our skill set, work we can't do ourselves, professionals. That's it. We would hope and pray to be able to have an amazing commencement, just an amazing commencement between the holidays, between November and December. 3 to 4 people permanently committed to the facility, about half full. The excitement, the local congregations, really talking it up. Therefore, then the local congregations going out and telling their friends about it. City leadership telling everybody about it. Anybody who watches you guys knowing about it. Getting the word out is huge. That would make a between the holidays opening, like grand opening, just amazing. I think that's an actual possibility. Martin Luther King said, "Somewhere along the way, we must learn that there is nothing greater than to do something for others." There's been a lot of quotes Martin Luther King has said, and that one is a pretty powerful quote. There's nothing feels quite as good as making an impact on somebody else's life with little or no effort. You feel like a champion when you held a door for somebody and they smile, or, the little or no effort. It really doesn't take a whole heck of a lot to care and love about some total stranger. I was incapable for the first almost 30 years, but I get it. I'm going, honey. In addition to Greystone's initial investment, up to $300,000, the big ask for this small community is $60,000 per year for a period of 3 years. Acquisition, that will go up for acquisition of the structure, startup costs, to get them into build to suit, operation costs, utilities, insurance, construction, etc. From the looks of the first couple estimates, the mitigating the stuff up front will leave a little mystery as to what the actual cost is going to be behind what needs to be removed out of the building. That's why the inflated $300,000 on our part. We're preparing to spend more. That's why we're only going to be paying $128,000 for the building, and it's about $35,000 to mitigate the asbestos, lead, and everything else that needs to be removed. And then we don't know how much it's going to cost, because all that has to be taken out before we could even know how much it's going to cost. So we're only going to be vested $200,000 into this, but we spoke to our benefactors, and they trust us and they love us, and they said, if God took you there, then what's another $100,000? It's his money anyway. That's exactly what he said. That's who he is. That's who the benefactor is. He says it's all God's money, and if you're using it to further hit the kingdom, then what's another $100,000? So we're up to $100,000, trying to stay around the 2 mark if at all possible. And operating costs, of course, utilities, insurance, construction, and if I didn't hit anything, honey, because I rambled.
Where's our summary page?
Where's the summary page? Are you there? Yep. Okay. I got mine all scrambled eggs, but she has it. There it is. Go ahead.
With the way worn, we pray for and strive to identify the individual needs of the underserved in our community, using input from the Holy Spirit, citizens, local government, and congregations to assist in establishing and managing the needs of support services most necessary for healing. We will work fervently to meet those needs in one accessible and centralized location.
That's an amazing conclusion to a long presentation. I apologize, guys. When things are really important to me, I get a little emotional, and this bringing people back from dark places, being privileged to witness that, it's something I'm excited about doing in your community too. Does anybody have any questions? Do we go on?
Is that a 3-minute recess?
You guys have a question?
Please. Anything from anyone, please.
First of all, I sit through dozens and dozens of meetings a month, and we talk and we talk and we talk, but nothing ever seems to happen. So thank you for moving forward.
God's a God of action. God's a God of action.
So what can, like, I do as a rep of my agency or others do to help kind of market the, for lack of a better word,
Okay.
raise awareness?
Both.
Okay.
Both. Speak to your superiors, your equals, your subordinates, the people you're helping in the program. If they're within traveling distance, we have a van that's dedicated for transportation, our van that's out there. That's what we do. If we can't probably go to like Richmond to pick them up for a meeting or anything, but if they're relatively close in the community, they don't have an excuse not to get help. So if you're letting folks know that we're there, God bless you. That's it. That's what we need. And if you want to bring yourself in professionally, have them reach out to my boss. And she'll get it. She'll make all the arrangements. I love your heart. I really do. When we first met, you got a haircut since I've met you first, right? Because I didn't know who he was. I'm sorry. Yes, he was at the meeting, but he looked a lot more shaggy. That's why I didn't recognize you. I didn't want to. When I said I recognized her, and then you stood up and you started talking, I was like, oh my God, I didn't acknowledge him. Well, it's your fault for not getting a haircut as often as you need to.
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
My question is going to go over here to, I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name, but you're
Oh, Shelley.
Yes.
Shelley, and
Yes.
you're with Centerstone, I understand.
Yes.
So, okay, so Centerstone provides counseling services to people who need them, various
Yes.
mental or whatever issues that they're going through. Is this going to represent some kind of a competition for you?
Absolutely.
Or how do you envision the partnership, if there is one, or how do you envision that collaboration?
From my viewpoint, there's no competition. I say this all the time, there are plenty of people who need help.
Yes.
Plenty to go around. Actually, Centerstone does have an office right here across the street.
Perfect.
They will probably maintain that office. However, I see us as more of a referring agency. Say, somebody needs help getting their Medicaid straightened out. Hey, go here, they can help you out. So.
And if we don't have the authority to do it, we have the phone number of the person who does.
I got a binder this thick with resources.
My wife is
all
the
over the
research genius. So, if I could, add a little bit to the answer to that question, the counseling that we would be providing is Christian counseling, Christ-centered counseling, and the counseling that your company is secular counseling. Is that correct, or is that Christ-centered as well?
It's not.
It's secular.
Yes.
So that's the variance. There is no competition between the house of the Lord and regular doctors
And we
and
won't
secular doctors.
we won't be licensed with any of the insurance companies or anything to take insurance payments
For some time.
Yeah.
For some time.
Now that doesn't say the counseling services who may come in the future won't be on an insurance board, but not us ourselves.
We actually pray to have 2 or 3 counselors that utilize those offices weekly, a couple, 2 or 3 days each.
Maybe
be able to-
even some Centerstone counselors in the future.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know where God will put us.
A lot of them subcontract, do Zoom counseling.
Yep.
They can do it from our portion, have them come by. It's endless opportunities for a building that size. The space, even the other building, the little market down the road that's been abandoned, any of those spaces. It's not the building, it's the people, right? Just like the mayor said, it's not the building. How many you could squeeze into there? I don't care if it's 7 locations with 1,000 square feet each. It's really irrelevant. God said that it's gonna happen, so. I really love this town and the heart that I've seen of the strangers who just saw our sign on our van or whatever and asked us what we do. And they said, well, where are you at? Winchester. Well, can you come here too? It happens. You see moms and grandmas weep. They get a little teary when it's time to, what do you do? My nephew. It has to start. And we're people of action, just like you said. Our God is a God of action. He doesn't waste time. When he wants something to happen, it happens. And we're following his lead. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you. It's a blessing.
It is a true blessing. Thank you for the opportunity to serve.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Shelley, thank you so much.
You're welcome. It was good to see you.
Likewise.
I'm going to exit so I can go home and take care of children.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
You too.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
All right. You said.
Bless you.
Eric, do you have anything you wanted to add for department reports? Anything that you want?
No,
That's
there's
fine.
nothing I need.
That's fine. Jan? Council members, Tito, let's start with you.
When the gentleman from the community asked the question about what is the consent agenda, I was like, what? Because I never understood it that way. So, anyway, I have 2 questions that are probably qualify as consent agenda, but I don't know. Based on your previous definition. I want to apologize beforehand for my next question because I would look things up on the Randolph County website to find out who owns what building. But that system moved and anyway, I couldn't find it and I was having problems. So my next question might have an easy answer, but I don't know it. Why does the city of Union City pay the Preservation Society for using the community room, which the city, okay, because that I saw in the
The claims, what you saw was we take the rent, with that's paid up here, but it's Preservation Society income, so that's just writing a check to them.
Oh, so we
Renting
take
out
that money in and, okay, it's
renting
just a
out the
pass
room,
through.
It's just a pass through.
Okay. The other one I shared by email, it's a minor thing, but I'll just leave it at that. So that's good, and that's all for me.
All right. No problem. Tim?
I don't have anything.
Jason?
I've had a couple people ask, and I'm curious myself, might be a question directed towards Steve about the stoplight out here not working correctly. Has anyone been out to look at that or try to fix it?
That's a yes, they have tried that. There has been a gentleman out there, because I talked to him personally one morning.
Where do we go? So, okay, there's 3 concentric circles cut into the asphalt. Those are supposed to be sensor cables.
Okay.
We believe, and the gentleman that we have had conversation with one early morning, we believe that there's a broken wire in one of them causing us some fits. That being said, they have made adjustments manually. They have set up monitoring devices on the street pole to monitor the length of the light, and to the best of my knowledge, it is operating within as close to normal expectation as possible. NDOT's response to Chad was that technically the traffic flow doesn't even deem necessary traffic lights, so if that's not good enough what they're doing, then just take them out.
Okay.
There you go.
So I have witnessed them. They did set up some kind of infrared monitoring device to actually track the time that was mounted on the street. the pole there on the corner next to the antique mall, that was mounted there for about 3 days.
Okay.
And I know they've been in the cabinet more than once, and yes, we have absolutely filed many complaints. So we hear every single citizen complaint.
And to add to that, Steve, I knew Steve and I had discussion about it and knew that he was approaching it from the city's point of view, so I went into NDOT's system and found their system to express a concern, and expressed a concern with it, and got a response, and they've got a response that they had addressed it, but not. I don't think that that office or whoever responds to that had full information, as comprehensive of information, because it had been addressed and dealt with, not necessarily repaired to our satisfaction, but then it showed up as the problem had been remedied. So,
Right. And we do believe they will be here to replace the sensor coils, but it's got to be warmer in order for all the
not going to fit in this time of year.
asphalt to seal
Gotcha.
back
Yeah.
down over top. They can just do that in the middle of the winter.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Good question, though. Anything else?
Nope. That's it.
Bob?
The Area Planning Commission meeting last Wednesday night, the commission gave a favorable recommendation to Union Go Dairy, south of Winchester, to rezone about 4 acres of their land from Ag 1 to Manufacturing 2 to build a manure digester to extract methane gas from the manure and store it and then ship it to natural gas facilities around the state or country or whatever. And it's it's not a new technology, they said, but it's one of the kind in the area. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how that works out. And the funny part of it is that evidently the fumes from manure will be less when they extract the methane, because that's where the bulk of the fumes come from. But some of the surrounding citizens were concerned about, the smell. But it actually will improve it, believe it or not. So that's all I have.
Well, thanks for that.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon?
I had 2 things written down here. Getting updates for Vision Corner and Gray Estates for the community, and you actually covered that during your presentation, so I have nothing further.
All right. Well, cool. Well, thank you. Josiah?
Okay, so I guess I sort of already covered the esports program, and you've covered it in your presentation as well. I also would like to also address, like you mentioned about how we need people that are able to work within our community and whatnot. Well, here recently at the school, they're starting up applications at the school for like the ICE program, which allows students to take hours from school and go to work at a business or whatever, and help them get internships to work at places in our town. So I think that's a really fortunate thing that's going on. We just had a meeting about it today with the junior class. So I guess to any businesses that would be watching, possibly expect some intern or requests for admission and whatnot, and from the student body. Just know that they're not going to be adults, so. So they may not work a full schedule, but they can work part of the schedule. So, and then also some more things. The musical has been starting practices. They started practices last week for our school musical. I don't exactly know the date on when it's being performed, but they have started practices for that, so it should be an entertaining experience later on for when people get to see that and bring the community together. And then also another thing that applies to our students is another thing that also helps connect with our businesses and whatnot is there's like Live to Learn meeting this Friday, similar to one we had a while back in our fall season of school. Pretty much where we meet at Winchester with a bunch of different schools and businesses and things around in Randolph County, and they come together to talk about how the newer generation comes into the new workforce and whatnot, and how they can be leaders within that, and how students can apply themselves within, and how they can advance themselves within our society. So that's a very good thing to happen at our school.
Absolutely.
And other than that, I don't really have much else. So.
No, that's great. Great job.
A lot of good things happening at the school.
Absolutely.
I think there's a lot of opportunity for students here at Union City. I'm not gonna lie, but even on the comments of Chad saying we need more housing, and I think if we bring more housing, I think with more students coming here, they'll be able to have them opportunities to proceed and go out and do things that people could only dream of. So.
That's awesome. Thank you, Josiah. Great job.
Yep.
Steve.
I have nothing.
All right. Moving on to new business, we have ordinance 2023-01, which is the salary ordinance amendment for changes for emergency services. You go back to your packet. Know if Steve, you want to?
Yeah, these are tweaks that we've needed to make to basically just clean up some things that were carryovers from previous salary ordinances, changing some of the verbiage, because Eric is still operational as far as the public safety director, is cleaning up some of the verbiage to clearly identify exactly how he's being paid, and then the balance of it. The position lines are things that we just need to do to ensure that the collaboration is working smoothly with the high side. It draws our pay closer in line with what they're paying, and vice versa, and we just need to be at those levels moving forward.
Any questions from council? If not, I would entertain a motion on the first reading.
I'll move we accept ordinance 2023-01, ordinance amending the salary ordinance by title only.
I'll second.
First and second. Jan, if you would, roll call vote.
Brandon Elmore,
Yes.
Bob Leahy.
Yes.
Jason Brewer.
Yes.
Tim Hines.
Yes.
Peter Frias.
Yes.
All right, now moving along, ordinance 2023-02, which this is the ordinance amending the section 92.2, the fireworks of the Union City Code of Ordinances. You guys have a chance to review this.
Basically what we're doing, we're not changing the ordinance for fireworks. What we're doing is we're adding basically the operational recommendations from the manufacturer, basically, that's on the side of the packaging for the fireworks. We're just basically adding that to our existing ordinance, identifying exactly what the rules are to light fireworks off and how to be safe in that process. To me, it made sense to Chad, made sense to the people that we bounce this off of, that the manufacturer's rules should probably be represented in our ordinance. We have looked at some other communities as well, and similar rules and recommendations for safe handling and operation is included in their ordinance as well.
So basically to conform to the manufacturers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the way this is this, you know, it shows in the ordinance the expected responsibility of the handler, of the citizen. And I think the language is clear enough that it's very easy to understand and comprehend. And
It was copy and pasted right from Phantom Fireworks.
Yeah,
So-
but it bolsters our ability to show this is what our expectations are in terms of responsible behavior.
Yeah.
I was going to say that exactly. It sounds like an instruction insert, so I'm glad you confirmed that. My concern with this is that although it's common sense and we want people to be safe, it defines nothing as being unlawful. It describes recommended ways that people should act. I think when you do that and have nothing for an enforcement, there's no enforcement mechanism, right? It doesn't give the police any power to, you know, to stop someone who's not obeying that part. To you know what I'm saying, to comply with it. Let me just go through it. One of just a few. I did them all. Well, it's just one page. So it says children should not handle fireworks. Okay, well, teenagers do that all the time. I mean, I've got teenagers that set off fireworks. I mean, I guide them and whatever. But are we suggesting that police are going to stop teenagers who are setting off fireworks? And if so, what's the penalty for that? That's not covered.
This is an amendment to the existing.
It's,
Right, but that's
the
the
amendment to the existing ordinance. The penalties are already established in our code of book of ordinances, and if somebody is cited for it, then it would just fall under those normal penalty processes.
Yeah, this doesn't take place, or
It's not changing anything.
Yeah.
It's just an amendment. It's adding it to our existing ordinance for fireworks.
Was there something in our previous existing ordinance that says never attempt to procure or use professional 1,3G display fireworks?
No, but those are technically illegal to purchase without licensure.
Okay, so, but still, if we're adding it here, what I'm saying is that one, is there someone who, observing someone's fireworks in their yard, can sort of identify that that's an illegal firework? Two, do our police then have the authority to enter that person's property and stop them from setting them off? And what is the penalty to that person for doing that? I don't think, I mean,
Does the
is it
state law
illegal
have
from the
that?
state level?
The state law probably has
Yeah.
that.
In local
place.
law enforcement,
And
you can
that's why
enforce that law.
I'm at a disadvantage. I didn't print the ordinance, and plus the state
Yeah.
statute
I didn't either.
covers a lot of that, and we can, you know, I'd say, you know, there's no problem in reviewing to make sure we've covered all those things in our ordinance. Otherwise, it's good maintenance to look at that and make sure we're covering everything. But this, like I say, this doesn't. I don't think this was probably not really changing anything as far as adding anything that we're not covering. But some of our ordinance covers some things, and then state law covers some.
Yeah, I mean, it is, I guess I'm not understanding what you're asking. Are you wanting our fireworks ordinance to be tougher than it currently is? Or
okay, so.
are you thinking that adding the rules that the manufacturer recommends is making our ordinance too tough? I don't understand where you're at.
I think that adding the rules that the manufacturer represents to our ordinance makes this part of our what would be new ordinance, unenforceable.
No, that's not the case at all.
Okay?
I mean, you still have the state laws that it can be enforced. You still have the ordinance that we're amending that is still there. You're adding to that by amending it to make the recommendations are laid out.
By the manufacturer.
I mean, they're in a lot of ways, I mean, common sense things that should be followed when handling fireworks. But there are still enforceable pieces of this that are not going away.
Okay, no, I understand that part. I guess what I don't understand is,
Okay.
does the state law that is maybe mentioned, and I didn't examine that completely, I admit, that is mentioned in our ordinance, current ordinances, say that people should not consume alcohol, for example, while using fireworks? And does it set out a penalty if that happens? And you know what I'm saying? I mean, like,
I get what you're saying.
Can I?
Good, Jim.
Section 92.99, which is the section of this section on fireworks. It says that section 92.99 penalty, and part B says any person using consumer fireworks other than as set forth within 92.22. In other words, if you're not following 92.22, which we are just amending, then they commit a violation and may be fined not less than $100 and not more than $1,000. Any person or corporation convicted of violating the provision set within 92.22 and 92.23 by not having a valid permit, and that goes on about the sale. But anyway, there is a penalty. It's a section by itself. 92.99, it's the end of that section.
I just think we should study this a little more before we get to a vote. Did we get our lawyer to review this, and does he have a recommendation?
Yeah, we wanted this presented to council back in November, but it took some time to get it through his desk.
So, yeah, I would suggest, we can table it for next meeting, we'll have it on for first reading or potential vote next meeting.
Okay.
IC, Indiana Code 22-11-14-2 is what's referenced in our ordinance.
Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, IC 22-11-14-2, which is basically stating, our ordinance states supervised public fireworks displays are permitted subject to the provisions of that Indiana code. So, well, yeah, so that way it'd give you guys a reference source. Resolution 2023-R-02, which is the loan resolution for Randolph County, which is amended. Pull that up. So this is for the resolution, a joint resolution of the county commissioners and the county council of Randolph County, Indiana, authorizing loans to the city of Union City for the Union City housing project related matters. This is for us to push back our payment of $50,000 for 1 year, and basically push the whole thing back. What you guys approved for the infrastructure for the housing is to push it back 1 year, because that gives us more breathing room from a budget standpoint, because they've approached me for a housing study, which is basically amounts to $1,500 a month is what the city of Winchester's committed to, and what they've approached me to commit to for Union City. And so in doing that, I don't want to pay that on top of $50,000 we owe for infrastructure. So I said we need breathing room, and so that was the point of this. So it's to push it back 1 year. So nothing else changes. It's merely pushing this back. Yeah. And believe you me, I have no qualms in stating this publicly, is that I plan to go back to these. I plan for these houses to be built. I plan for them to have families living in them. And I plan to go back to the county and say, look what we've done. And I'm going to be looking for some grace on the amount of this infrastructure. So putting it bluntly.
So question on this.
Yes.
So this is not a resolution for us to vote on. It's one for the commissioners or whoever, right? To vote on.
No, it is for us.
Well, it's for us to vote on, but then they have to approve.
Yeah, it's for us to approve being pushed back. It's the same language. It's the exact same deal, except just pushed back 1 year.
It's our ask.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. So again, nothing whatsoever changed in the structure.
Verbiage is the same other
Yep.
than the dates.
Yeah, only the dates have changed. So if you have no other questions, I would entertain a motion for approval.
I'll Move we approve resolution 2023-R-02, resolution, a joint resolution of the county commissioners and the county council of Randolph County, Indiana, authorizing the loans to the city of Union City for the Union City housing project and related matters.
We have a first, we have a second.
I'll second.
Tia back here. So if you would, roll call vote, Jan?
Brandon Elmore,
Yes.
Bob Lay.
Yes.
Jason Brewer.
Yes.
Tim Heiss.
Yes.
Peter Freer.
Yes. And then the facade grant application, Steve, I will turn this over to you.
This is the second facade grant application for K.I.S.S and Parts. When it was presented with just the paving, you guys requested that he present after the first of the year. You can see with the $50,000, I think it was about 50, from the paving, he has basically invested about 100 grand into the improvement of his building. So it pretty much speaks for itself. The facade is absolutely definitely improved. He has dealt with all of the stormwater runoff effectively. There's no more ponding water off of Lennox at all. I think Mr. Wendell has done exactly what he said he was going to do in cleaning up his property. And I do believe that come this summer he'll start completely renovating the inside of the showroom.
Do you have any questions?
No, just comment that it's done a significant amount of work, quite a bit of cash outlay, not including the new building that he's built, new structure he's built.
The barn ended up being a little over $500,000.
So there's a pretty significant uptick in, there'll be a significant uptick in tax receipts from this. And not to mention the amount of business that they're able to do out of this facility. So I think it's a good investment on our part.
Steve, I don't know if I know we had some concerned citizens here when they were in the midst of construction and what have you. I'm not sure if you've heard from those citizens any further, if they're pleased with what has, transpired, or if they still have issues or concerns there.
I don't.
I haven't spoken with them myself
I don't
either.
want to speak for them at all. I know that we are waiting on the windscreen to arrive, which will partially wrap the chain link fence and better seclude the rented or the rentable golf carts that are stored behind the barn. I think that'll help clean that up for the property owners next door. That is ordered, and as soon as it comes in, we'll put it up. I'm positive that their property values have gone up. Like I said, there's a $600,000 investment on that corner, which, a rising tide raises all ships. So, that's good for the neighborhood. That's good for their properties overall. So, have we heard anything negative? No, not for a good while, and neither has Mr. Wendell. My last conversation with him is it's gone silent. Nobody's complaining. They're
That's a good thing.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
I think they were unhappy with the development. I know that getting to the point where everything was cleaned up and everything was off the street and everything was put back into order had to be very troublesome to a lot of the neighbors, because there was heavy equipment and heavy trailers and things like that parked on the side street during the construction. But all of that is behind them, and it is a significant investment to their immediate neighborhood. So
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Any questions or other questions? If not, I would entertain a motion for approval.
I will move that we approve the facade grant to K.I.S.S and Parts for facade and landscape restoration in the amount of $10,000.
We have a first, and we have a second.
I'll second.
Jan, if you would, roll call vote.
Brandon Elmore,
Yes.
Bob Leahy.
Yes.
Jason Brewer.
Yes.
Tim Weiss.
Yes.
Tito Frias.
Yes.
All right, and I am paying dearly for forgetting my glasses, so. I'm not having a stroke in case you're wondering. So moving on, 2023 comprehensive plan, I do not plan to have you vote on this tonight because that's not fair. You guys received this Friday and it's a very, very deep, it's a very lengthy plan, obviously. It's comprehensive. So by definition, it's got a lot in it. But I'm going to ask you to spend a little bit of time with it over the next 2 weeks. Go through it and make any suggestions, anything you feel like is need edited or anything that's missing, anything you think may be redundant, you name it. Because these are necessary because it helps us with grant pursuits, and they'll ask, well, is it in your comprehensive plan, and so that way we can confidently answer that question, yes, and believe it or not, I know it kind of sounds elementary, but that's a box you have to check. So
Who developed this?
original development, I think, was K.I.S.S Consulting that originally did this, or do you remember Baker Tilly? I don't. This is our edited version.
And we've updated this, a number of times through
Yeah.
the years, so it goes back quite a, the origination goes back.
This
Monty's
is-
always spent a lot of time in it. Monty
Yep.
put a lot of time and effort in it, updating it, but I can't remember what
I
the
think
original origin
I think it
was.
might have been K.I.S.S, but I'm not positive. But I've actually updated this myself because when you send it to a firm to do, they're going to regurgitate most of this and charge us $5,000 to $10,000, and I'm not going for that. As long as we're in agreement with the content that's in here, as long as because that's what's most important. Do we feel like this is a guiding document to tell the lay person this is what we're all about and what we want to accomplish?
I always look at it like a best foot forward type document, and so you want it to be accurate, but you want it to be, make sure it's there.
Yeah,
make sure everything's there and not leave anything out.
Exactly, and it should be, and shame on me, I've had this in one of I had the previous one sitting in my desk, but I'm going to keep it on my desk now because I even read somewhere it should be on the corner of your desk, as advice. And so, because it should be a living, breathing document. It really should be. So, it's more or less like a business plan.
Can I say one thing?
Yes.
So Chad made the updates and the additions to it. I went through this morning and I tweaked the optics of it and moved pictures around and did things, because I think over the years as it has been edited, things got moved out of place and there was extra pages, and if you find something that needs to be tweaked or something that just looks off, let me know so that we can get it corrected. And
Is this your copy?
that is the updated copy as of this morning.
I didn't know if this was different than what we had.
Chad's been making the edits over the last 10 days or so, and I told him that like the very first page, the picture was setting between the word table and contents, and we don't know how or why that happened, but we cleaned all those things up this morning.
Well, if anybody knows dealing with Word after a while, you end up inventing your own language when things start moving on you. So if you wouldn't mind, this will be on the agenda for the next meeting.
So I just wanted to say, I did a sort of fast read / slow skim, and I think it's brilliant. I think it lays out a vision and a strategy. That's the most important thing, a strategy for how Union City can take advantage of current trends in national, international market, and energy, and all these other sectors, and sets us up for long scale growth and success. So I'm loving it.
Awesome. And when you talk about growth, my apologies too. I didn't announce it during my section earlier. I just want to give a hats off to the new business opened in town. We should always try to recognize new businesses. I forgot to do that at the beginning during my section. So I think it was Sunrise.
Sunrise and Dine.
Sunrise and Dine.
Sunrise and Dine. Yeah. So I'll be honest. We tried to eat there Sunday after church, and there was a waiting line. We couldn't get in, so it was awesome. So that's wonderful. So just a hats off for them.
Yeah, there's been a lot of good unsolicited reviews.
Good.
Yep.
Good. Oh, good. Welcome to the community.
I do have a recommendation for one of them. Every restaurant is closed on Monday.
Yeah.
Can they pick another day? Can they open on Monday and pick another day to close?
Apparently that's the night we're supposed to cook.
Rotate around.
So visitors, we have visitors wishing to address the council this time. If we would,
Yes, sir.
Will, just restate your address.
I'm Will Duff, my wife Ricky, we're from a place called Harrisville, it's 1492 North 500 East.
Awesome.
And I wanted to come and address and try to maybe get a position from the council regarding, we just received this, was that January 6th?
Yeah, it was January 6th.
From One Carbon Partnership regarding pore space sequestration.
Oh, okay.
And what's, they're basically liquefying carbon dioxide from the ethanol plant. And they're gonna force it 3/4 of a mile underground, and I was wanting to get a position.
About 3/4 of a mile from our house.
Position from you guys, if it, or some kind of statement. Does anyone here understand the science behind pore space sequestration and the possibilities? We have received a contract that they're gonna pay us. It's like another easement. Once again, we've had several easements on our property. That's fine. This affects a 10,000 acre area around Cardinal Ethanol, which also has the exact same address as One Carbon Partnership. So I guess it has two names. However, I assume that you guys voted on this, or no?
It's outside our jurisdiction, so
That's not-
that's county,
So that
unfortunately.
would be a county, okay, so
Right.
I've never done this.
No, you're
Totally,
fine,
I'm
you're
a
fine.
rookie, so, could you give me any information on where I could go? So, would be is there a county council?
Yes, there is. I'm gonna try to find their meeting times. It's,
Oh, you
They're in
already
the
know.
courthouse in Winchester, but I don't know the meeting times.
it's 9 o'clock.
I
and
would guess that you
Oh,
need
she
to
already-
start
she
with the
said she-
commissioners.
February 7th.
Yeah.
I did.
So
We
We start with the commissioners,
Yeah, because
which is also 9 o'clock.
Right, they deal with operational decisions, and that's what this would have been.
Does anyone here have any understanding of the science behind
Yeah,
that?
basically, they're recapturing their carbon dioxide that they produce and they send out into the atmosphere. They're injecting it into the ground. It is, I believe, from everything that I've heard, completely safe and
Well,
is.
that's what we got from, what's his name?
Yeah, from this one
Mr.
guy. They sent a contract asking us to
Well, I
meet
already
us
said
with
that.
the notary, no lawyer representation.
Does anyone here know, Joe Silipo?
From Colorado.
So you spoke with him. He gave us a presentation and, you know, I was educated in Kentucky, so I got, well, I'm getting that, and I didn't understand, it was like, I'm like, man, what in the world is this guy? He showed us graphs and all
He's really
this.
smart.
And I did a lot of research on this in the last few days, and, I just couldn't find anything good about it, so I wanted to come here and get your guys, if you guys knew anything about the science or
Yeah,
the dangers behind it.
we were not consulted. There's 5,500 monitoring
They're pushing it
sites around the ethanol plant.
Mhm.
There's two in Union City. The city is part of it with the monitoring side, and we had no input in this conversation whatsoever. This was a Cardinal Ethanol and a County of Randolph County decision.
Well, did you say, you were talking earlier, regarding, we don't wanna run out of water, and this is gonna, and Cardinal Ethanol, I would assume they use more water than any
Yes.
other single business in our county.
Yep.
And they're gonna be using more water to push this stuff underground, so I was just wondering, have you guys considered that? I guess not, you haven't.
No, we have absolutely considered what their consumption is, and what we believe it is going to be, and what we have seen as far as growth in their consumption over the last decade. But we have no indication from Cardinal Ethanol that they're going to be growing faster than normal or using more than what a normal increase would be considered.
Here, this is their next meeting time is February 6th. That's a Monday. It's at 9 a.m.
Cool, thank you very
Oh,
much.
you're very welcome. And I apologize, our meetings aren't normally this long. I apologize.
It's just important.
I might come
And
back
sir,
just to hear what's
and
going
sir,
on.
I'd like to look at that and take notes so I can do a little research as well.
Yes, sir. There's two sections. One's the contractor, one's got like names.
Ted,
numbers.
Thank you both for coming. Yes, Bob?
You have another new business that just opened today.
Well, please share.
Journey Home is starting a thrift shop at 209 North Columbia.
That's right.
And,
Thank you.
We'll see. I think it's gonna be interesting.
And there's a background on that, is there not? That anything bought at the thrift shop for the Journey Home goes to support the Journey Home.
That's right. That's,
So-
everything is donated, and whatever they make is supporting veterans.
Awesome.
So, yes, I just wanted to know,
And do you know anything about deliveries? Because we actually have some stuff we could donate. Do you know anything about the drop off?
I haven't, I told them, Barb and I have already donated some stuff.
Awesome.
And told them that I'm gonna take it right in the front door, or if they want it through the back door, I'll do that. We've got access to the back. But, yeah, I'm sure that they'll take it to either door.
Okay, super,
I
super.
can't imagine any thrift shop turning down
Well,
a donation.
it is a pretty good concept, so it helps support the Journey
They're
Home.
particularly interested in not only clothing, but items of furniture. Sometimes when these guys get ready to go out into the world,
Mhm.
they don't have anything. So they're getting an apartment and they need
I was gonna
to
ask
be
you
able
what
to
the-
set up and live there.
what they-
So if you've got a microwave that works and you're not using it, you wanna get rid of it, I'm sure they'll take it.
Awesome.
But anyway,
Good deal. No, thank you for that. Appreciate that. Well, the next city council meeting will be Monday, February 13th, Valentine's Day Eve already. Holy smokes, at 6 p.m. Board of Works, same day, that Monday, February 13th, at 1 p.m. I would hereby entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We have first, we have a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.